All right, everybody, here I am with the famous actress Dee Wallace, who you know from The Howling, E.T., Critters, Cujo, just to name a few. But as I start all these interviews off, I ask the same question to everybody. Could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, I don't know, you have 40 hours. Um,
I do.
I am a Midwestern girl from Kansas City, and I grew up in a very modest and poor household. Most of my life we lived with my grandmother. My dad was an alcoholic, ended up committing suicide. My mother was an amazing local actress in Kansas City. And that's where I get a lot of my talent and my desire to move people with. She would do what we called dramatic readings. We would call them monologues now at our church every Christmas and every Easter. And people from 4 states around us would come to watch my mother. And I literally remember the moment sitting there going, oh my God, all these people are crying. I want to move people like my mommy does. And I got my degree from the University of Kansas and taught high school for a year before I left to find my fame and fortune in New York. And I was there 2 years and then came out here, and the rest is kind of history.
And, obviously I've been watching a lot of, your films again in preparation for this. And one thing that I noticed, whether it's E.T. or Cujo or whatever it may be, is that you have such a believability and control to your performance that, a lesser actress wouldn't.
Thank
you. What do you like? How do you approach a role, and like what do you owe to that level of control and believability that you bring to a role?
I owe my teacher, Charles Conrad, and I studied with a lot of brilliant people, Uta Hagen and Jeff Corey. But when I found Charles, that was my way into the reality of what acting is. And it's a definite technique, but it is a technique where you don't break things down and you don't go into a lot of the study that a lot of the different modalities do. You get your energy very high, you throw all that energy onto the person or the scene or the werewolf that you're working with. And what that does is it really opens you up to be kind of a channel for the character. So the way I work the best is to just step back and get out of the way and let the character tell me what to do.
Fascinating. Now, do you have a particular genre that you prefer in film? Because obviously you've done a lot of horror film. I don't know if that's just that was the best offer at the time. And what do you feel about when people put you under the title of Scream Queen?
Hey, any kind of queen with me, it's a good title. So I'm a good screamer, and I'm a good horror actress, and I own that for sure. I didn't go looking for it, but I love to do really heart-based emotional work. I love to start here and create a whole, I guess movement is the best part, into a whole different place. Like the Frighteners is a perfect example. She starts out as this victim and this simpy little character and morphs into this badass killer. And so I really look for characters that are heart-based and that give me a lot of emotional opportunity to delve into all the different parts of me.
And obviously you've done a lot of television. You got your start on like the streets of San Francisco, Starsky and Hutch, etc. And then you got into a lot more film-based acting. Is there a different approach for an actor between television as compared to film?
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And I had the largest acting studio in LA for about 18 years. And I would tell my students, you don't do anything differently in front of Steven Spielberg that you do in front of me here. Don't psych yourself out. Acting is acting is acting. Now, there is a big difference between stage and film and TV. The rehearsal process is much different. The blocking, it's much more kind of laborious and longer. The process is much longer, especially nowadays. We do a film in 15 days, for God's sake. So, and some pretty darn good ones, I might add, too. So did I answer your question? Because I have a tendency to...
Yeah. And, right around the time you're doing television, well, not exactly right around, but, you get into The Hills Have Eyes. Is that fair to say that was your big break? And what was it like working with Wes Craven?
Actually, my big break was a religious film called All the King's Horses. And I became such good friends with the director that he lovingly brought all the canisters of the film out before we had discs and all that. And I rented a little studio on Radford to film the film. And I invited 10 agents and everybody said, they're gonna laugh you out of the room, Deanna. You can't expect Hollywood agents to watch a religious film. Well, cut to 9 of the 10 agents wanted to take me on. So, you have to just believe in yourself and put it out there. And then I had a really substantial film to show everybody else, right? Which is really the first step. So I actually I used that film and had to audition, of course, for The Hills Have Eyes. And I would say it was a big stepping stone, but probably my next biggest break was 10 with Blake Edwards.
And I'd be very interested to talk about 10 in a second here. But just out of curiosity, with horror movies, you never know when they're going to hit and when they're going to, possibly play in a couple of drive-ins and never be heard of again.
These days, for sure.
Yeah. When you were making The Hills Have Eyes and working with Wes, did you have a feeling that this is going to be a big movie, even if it's in a cult sense, or was it just, it's another job?
Yeah, I think that's the way most creative people feel about everything they do, really. We don't go in going, oh, I'm doing a blockbuster here. Nobody on ET thought, oh my God, this is going to be a blockbuster. You just go in, you make the best script you can. Everybody just wants to go in and do their best job. And then if it becomes a hit, woohoo, but I think that the focus and the intention is to just be as truthful and honest as you can.
And you had brought up 10. I mean, that was one of my parents' favorite movies growing up, so I probably saw that probably younger than I should have. But
probably.
Yeah. But Blake Edwards is probably one of our people that have the most rapier wit out there. So what was it like working with a comedy mind and getting to be involved in that project?
Well, working with him was actually quite serious. Blake Edwards, boy, he didn't take any shit from nobody. I remember one time he was walking by and the sound guy said to me, "Could you speak up a little bit, Dee?" And he turned around and he said, don't ever ask my actors to do that. That's your job. Their job is to be real. And if you can't get what they're saying, I'll get somebody else. And one time I remember, and I love Bo. I just love Bo. John, on the other hand, not so much. And I remember one time where Blake sent him off the set, so business was business. You didn't ever come on the set without knowing your lines, I can tell you that. He expected you to be the professional that everybody was in the movie, right? Including his wife, Julie, whom I adore. And Blake was just, I often think I started at the very top,
Now, you've been a part, of many, many big movies, many fantastic performances, but there would be one that I would say would be fairly career defining, which was, your portrayal of the mom in E.T. So how did you become a part of that process? And did you have to audition for Stephen?
Actually, I auditioned for Used Cars and fortunately did not get that because Stephen saw that vulnerability and childlikeness in me that he wanted in all the adults that weren't the doctors at the end. And so when E.T. came along, they just offered it to me. Kind of a Hollywood story, isn't
it? Yeah. And what was it like being directed by Steven Spielberg? Because by this point, he had enough, number ones under his belt that he was, kind of the biggest deal in Hollywood at this point.
Well, that's like saying, how's it like to work with a genius? I loved watching Steven work with the kids. And I loved working the way that we all worked in E.T. Because I work very much the same way. The less I know what's coming and the more you catch me in the moment, the better I am. So that's the way he handled all the kids. And that's the way a lot of times he directed me too. But Stephen and all the big directors that I've worked with, they all give their actors permission to bring in their own ideas and the freedom that if something happens, you can go for it without judgment, which is incredibly important to the creativity of everybody on the set, that everybody's allowed to do that. I mean, Alan Davio, our DP, would have an idea. One of the kids would have an idea. In the big dinner table scene, Stephen whispered to Henry, "Say your dad's in Mexico with Sally." So I didn't know it was coming. And when he said that, I took, as Mary, such a hit, and I felt the tears coming up, and I had the thought, I can't let the kids see me cry. So I got up and left. And Stephen came over and went, "Dee, why did you get up and leave?" And I explained to him what had happened to me in the moment. And at that moment, he brought the crew in and they built a whole fake wall with a sink with running water in it so that he could take me over to the sink and bring me back into that close-up where I say he hates Mexico. And it all just happened like that. But you see, if an actor isn't given the freedom to experience those creative moments, then the director can't build on him.
Yeah, and there's an old saying, don't work with children or animals.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have had a career, would I?
Right, yeah. We'll get to the animals soon enough here. But one of the things in my rewatching of ET, like I needed to, again, I've probably seen it 300 times, is just how incredible, all three of the kids are.
Unbelievable.
And what was it like, you're a professional actress, what was it like, coming onto set and seeing how, well these kids were performing at such a young age?
I get asked that question, and it's crazy because I don't remember a moment where I was in judgment of the kids, or I just looked at them as other actors that I got to work with. And they were all so real and so in the moment with me. And that's largely due to how Stephen directed them, because he would just he would say, Drew, okay, take a bite of your hamburger and then look at Mom and go, oh, what's Mexico? Right? Now take a look at Henry and say a little alien or whatever it was, So he kept them very fresh and in the moment. And we also shot in sequence, which I thought was incredibly smart of him to do in this movie with the kids.
And this is another one of your performances, that you have such control and nuance to this performance that, as I mentioned before, other actresses maybe would have gone over the top or become unbelievable, especially, in a scene where you're finding, a dying alien in your bathroom. Once again, like, what do you credit to having such an amazingly beautiful, controlled performance? Because I was blown away recently when I was watching you.
Oh, thank you. I again would have to go back to Charles Conrad in my training. I literally get out of the way and the character does it. But I have experiences in my life too. The first time I found my father when he tried to commit suicide, in a movie, you want to go, oh my God, are you all right? In reality, a lot of times you freeze. You freeze because your brain can't assimilate what it's seeing, because you don't want to see it. You don't want to acknowledge it. I know when I got the call that Christopher Stone, my husband, I was shooting the Frighteners, and I got a call that he'd had a heart attack and it passed. It took me 6 times to go, what? I can't hear you. I don't know what you're saying. What? And that's real, So sometimes you have to go for the drama, but my job is to go for the drama in the realest, most hooked way that I can. It's got to be hooked. If it's not coming from something, I just feel like bugs are crawling all over me.
And, I'm sure when this film wrapped, you think, oh, well, hey, it's probably going to be a hit. Steven, is a great director. I was great. The kids were fantastic. The puppet's cute. But did you ever think that this was going to turn into, for 11 years, the highest grossing film of all time?
Who thinks about that? No. And nobody in the film did. including Steven. This was supposed to be his little film in between all his big blockbusters. So, you know, destiny has a way of defining what hits and what doesn't. And it comes down to so many things, timing and editing and the music. I mean, my God, John Williams' music makes the ultimate picture, right? How you promote it. There were a million ways they could have promoted this. So for me, E.T. is our Wizard of Oz. And it's because it's very much like the Wizard of Oz. It's a heart movie, and it transcends the brain and reminds us of what's really important. And films like that stay with us forever. Wizard of Oz, Peter Pan, you know, they last forever because they're the truth.
Absolutely. And can we talk about the filming of Cujo? Because not only did you have to spend the majority of the movie in an automobile, which wasn't like a soundstage automobile, it was an actual automobile. But
it was an actual automobile on an actual ranch, and we were freezing.
Yeah.
Good acting,
It was so hot, but yeah, it was during the winter, right?
Yeah, it was November, December in Northern California. So I looked over, and poor Danny was going like this, and I went to Lewis, our great director, and I said, is there any way that we could put a heater in the front of the car? Because we're both freezing. And they did easily. And but everybody really thinks we're dying of the heat in there. And they would throw covers on us in between takes. So
and
it was definitely the hardest thing I've ever done.
There were multiple Cujos. People think it was just one dog, and then there were also people in dog outfits, right?
One,
certain shots.
Just the stuntman had a dog outfit, and the biggest contribution, because the real dogs did almost everything, but he would ram his head against the car along with a mechanical dog, a spring head that did that too. But the big attack scene in the car, I did it with him, and the stunt woman did it with the real dog, and it's all edited together, and it's just brilliant editing, just amazing editing. I can't even see where we go in and out.
So I want to be conscious of time here, so I might jump a little ahead here to 2007. You were in the rebooted version of Halloween, the Rob Zombie version of that film. Is there any trepidation, you know, when that script comes by or your agent calls you to take on a remake of something that, you know, so many people are so in love with the original? Is there any fear
for Rob
there?
Zombie? I didn't think twice. So no, you know, and it's not a remake, it's a Rob make. It's a whole different take on it. I adore Rob, and I adore working with him. You have so much freedom on his sets. When he gave me 3 from Hell, I called him and I said, Rob, I have to do this part, but I can't look like me. I have to dye my hair mousy brown. And can I have glasses? Can I really look like shit? I have to look old and hard. And there was his pause, and he went, okay. That was the extent of our conversation. He trusted my instincts. He got my instincts. Now, I'm sure if he didn't agree, he would have stepped forward, and, you know. But there's just so much freedom on a set with Rob that you can bring in your weirdest and wildest things, and if they work, they fly.
And now you've had continual success, continued work in your career. For people that want to become actors, what would you say that you owe that consistency, not just consistent work, but quality work throughout the years?
I would say be yourself and be naive. Because if you hear all these people go, oh, it's so hard. Oh my God, you're not going to do that, are you? It's so hard to get started. And you're going to have to wait tables probably for 10 years. And blah, blah, blah. I'm saying to you, that's their fear and that's their limitation. Your job is to follow your dream. And if you love it and you believe in yourself, you know, you kind of have to say, screw it to everybody else, because you're not going to be happy if you don't follow it.
And do you have a favorite role?
Cujo. Yeah. I just think I went as far as I could go, as truthfully as I could go there in that movie.
Gotcha. And can you speak to your work as a public speaker, as self-help author? I mean, you're continually working as an actress, but you have obviously other passions. Can you tell us?
I do. I'm a clairaudient channel. I have 6 books out on the subject, all available on Amazon. I have a Sunday call-in show where anybody can call in and ask the channel where their blocks are about anything. I do monthly webinars. The next one's on racism, which we have really got to get on top of, which involves LGBTQ and Asian and sexism, and it covers, that word covers all of that. So I'm really, really, really passionate about that side of my life. And it's very interesting because I spend half my life doing horror and the other half of my life healing people from their fear. And the two worlds work together better than you might ever expect.
And what was it like in that world? What was it like doing a TED Talk?
Oh my God, I love that. I want to do another one. I know that when everybody goes back from the time they're conceived till the time they're 8 years old, and look at what they were taught or what was modeled to them by their mom and dad, you will see where most of your major blocks are. And that's what the TED Talk is about. It's our brains are literally locked in by 8 years old around how we see ourselves in the world, how we see the world seeing us, and our place in the world and how we're received. 8 years old. So you really want to get a handle on your stuff. You want to go back to your childhood.
Fascinating. And a little birdie told me there was a rumor that you were going to be in my neck of the woods here in the near future.
I am. Yeah, I'm going to be at Steel City Con, and I'm really excited. I've been back there for a while, and I'm just excited the cons are opening up. I love doing them. I love meeting the fans. I love all your stories, and I love that you love all the product on my table. I've got a great table and great collectibles and great art pieces, and I just love doing them. I just did my first one in Vegas after 13 months.
And your boys are going to be there from ET, right?
Yeah, my boys.
Very cool. Yeah, so that will be June 11th to the 13th. Steel City Con is finally back. I went, I think, every single time, and this whole pandemic, boy, I've been missing it. So you will see me there. I'll
it's a great
make sure
show,
I say hi.
guys.
Yeah.
Well, you better come say hi to me, dude.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
It's a big ET reunion. Me and the boys, so we'll all be there.
Well, Dee, I can't, thank you enough. You've, probably done countless interviews throughout your career, but for me, this meant the world to be able to talk to somebody who's had such an amazing career
Oh,
and incredible acting talent. So yeah, I can't thank you enough, and really appreciate your time. So thank you for coming on.
thank you for having me, and I'll see y'all soon.